People ask me for the secret to becoming a billionaire at 75. They should be asking about the 35 years I spent stuck between the $1 million mark and the $1 billion mark. That is the real story. It wasn't that I suddenly got smarter, luckier, or found a magic formula. The only reason I achieved success so late was this: I finally stopped sabotaging myself. While you are hunting for the financial holy grail, the secret stock, the perfect timing, the tip from the insiders, you are wasting precious time. There is no secret. There is only a long list of stupid financial behaviors that, if you simply commit to eliminating, will automatically put you ahead of the curve. I've spent 6 decades observing the best and brightest destroy themselves, highly intelligent, talented, and credentialed people who repeatedly fall into the same financial death traps. And the worst part, they only grasp this truth when they are 60, broke, bitter, and blaming the world for cheating them. Do not make the same mistake. I will show you the list of things you need to stop doing immediately, because I guarantee you, just making 3 of these mistakes has already robbed you of 10 years of your prime. The first mistake, that self-destructed me buying what I couldn't explain. You won't believe it, but I used to be one of them. The people who threw money at things that sounded sophisticated. It took me decades to finally formulate the simplest rule. If I cannot explain my investment to a child, I don't buy it. Think about it. We'll spend hours reading reviews for a coffee maker, yet we'll toss tens of thousands of dollars into an asset just because a stranger online said it was going to the moon. It's sheer madness. I remember the 1,990 seconds. People called me obsolete for skipping tech stocks. I didn't understand their business model, so I stayed out. They laughed at me as the prices soared. But when the bubble burst, I slept soundly, without losing a dime. I missed early Amazon, and I missed Google. Did I regret those missed gains? For a minute. But I also missed the thousands of other tech companies that went to zero. I learned that complexity is the enemy of wealth. Smart people buy fancy derivatives and leveraged products and get wiped out because they don't know the machinery they own. Meanwhile, the guy who buys a simple share of a company that sells something tangible, like sugar water or basic insurance, just keeps compounding his money. If you have a position in your portfolio and you can't articulate exactly how that business generates cash, not why the stock price might go up, but how the company makes money, you are speculating. You are praying someone dumber than you shows up later. I learned to sell those speculative bets immediately. It's cheaper to admit your ignorance now than to pay for it with your retirement. The second, costliest mistake, thinking I had to learn from my own failures. People love to wear failure as a badge of honor. I learned from my mistakes. Baloney. I realized I didn't have enough time or money left to keep learning everything the hard, painful way. I wasn't smart enough to survive trial and error, so I began to study other people's disasters. I became obsessed with history, not inspirational biographies, but market collapses, fraud cases, and bankruptcies. I studied every major crash. Why? Because the human psychology never changes. It's always the same delusion, the same greed, the same ignored warning signs. People today buy crypto at the peak and act shocked when it crashes, as if they are the first humans to discover asset bubbles. They think, this time is different. It is never different. I wasn't alive during the Great Depression, but I studied it. I saw how people borrowed money, margin, to buy stocks, and when the crash came, the margin calls wiped them out entirely. The lesson was searingly clear. Never use leverage. If you can't afford to own it outright, you can't afford it at all. I read every biography I could find, not to admire the greats like Carnegie or Rockefeller, but to catalog their stupid mistakes. They paid the tuition, and I cashed in the lesson. But what does the average person do? They skip the history books and scroll through videos promising the next big stock. Learning from other people's mistakes isn't just cheaper, it's exponentially faster. I compressed 3 centuries of market folly into a few years of reading. That saved me decades of pain. If you want to save yourself the 35 years of wandering I endured, start small. Study just one failure story a month: Enron, Lehman Brothers, the dot-com bust. It might be boring, yes, but I promise you, losing your money is infinitely more boring. Now, let's talk about the third mistake, the one that wastes more time than any other: being in a hurry. Everyone wants the 6-month shortcut, the overnight hack, the secret formula. It is a fairy tale. I built my wealth over 60 years. 60, not 6. I'm telling you, the real money isn't made in buying or selling, and it certainly isn't in timing the market. The money is made in sitting still. It's in waiting. It's in doing nothing when everyone else is panicking or chasing the next shiny thing. The greatest returns emerge from long stretches of boredom, from quietly holding quality assets while the world loses its collective mind. But you can't stand the quiet, can you? You see someone make 200% on a meme coin in 3 weeks, and suddenly you're convinced you're missing out. You dump your savings into whatever is flashing on your screen because sitting still feels like failure. And what is the result? 5 years pass, and you've gone nowhere, worse than nowhere. You've paid fees, taxes, and the emotional cost of stress, only to lose out to a basic, boring index fund. Meanwhile, the boring person who simply bought, held, added consistently, and didn't look at their phone every day, that person quietly doubled their money. They understood that compounding is invisible for years, but it is relentless. 20% a year doesn't look exciting today, but given decades and patience, it becomes extraordinary. Most people will never experience that magic, not because they're not smart, but because they are tragically impatient. Now, before we keep going, I want to hear from you. Be honest with yourself for a second. Have you made any of these first 3 mistakes? Learning the hard way instead of studying others? Buying things you don't understand? Rushing the process and chasing quick money? If even one of those felt familiar, drop a comment and tell me which one. If none of them felt familiar, tell me why. I'd love to know if this way of thinking resonates with you. And if you're finding value already, make sure you subscribe. This channel is all about helping you think rationally, avoid stupidity, and build lasting wealth without hype. All right, let's continue. The fourth mistake: believing diversification means owning everything. Wall Street loves the old line, don't put all your eggs in one basket. So, you listen. You spread your money across 50 stocks, dozens of funds, bonds, commodities, crypto, like you're collecting Pokemon cards. You think this is prudence, but what you've actually built is a messy, expensive, do-it-yourself index fund that you cannot possibly comprehend. You don't have the time to read 50 annual reports, study 50 industries, or track 50 management teams. Diversification, at this level, is a crutch for ignorance. It's what people do when they don't really know what they're doing. The greatest fortunes in history, mine included, were built through concentration. Not blind, reckless concentration, but thoughtful concentration. owning a handful of businesses you truly understand. You don't need 60. You need 6 good ones in a lifetime. The fifth mistake, bleeding out through fees and taxes. This is the most boring topic, and it's why people ignore it. But boring things determine your financial destiny. A 1% annual fee doesn't sound like much, but over 30 years, that 1% can steal hundreds of thousands, sometimes million, from your future. Trading constantly racks up commissions, spreads, and the most lethal killer, taxes. You sell too fast, you get hit with short-term gains. Your money never gets a chance to compound. The entire engine of wealth dies before it starts spinning. That's why I rarely sold. Holding quietly, letting the gains accumulate without the government taking a cut every year, that is how fortunes are built. Not with constant activity, but with discipline. The sixth mistake, letting your emotions run the show. The market falls 10% and you panic sell. Your friend brags about a coin that tripled and you FOMO your way in at the top. Then it crashes and you swear you'll never invest again. Buy high, sell low. Over and over. The exact opposite of success. Fear and greed will ruin you faster than any recession ever could. When COVID hit, the world looked like it was ending. People sold everything. We sat still. We bought more. Great companies were suddenly on sale. The people who panicked locked in their losses forever. Their emotions ruined them, not the market. The seventh and final mistake, quitting too early. This is the one that kills more wealth than all the others combined. People invest for a couple of years, don't get rich, get bored, get frustrated, and quit. They bounce from stocks to real estate to options, always chasing the next miracle. They never stay long enough for compounding to work its magic. The first 10 years feel like nothing's happening. Then the next 10 years feel like everything's happening at once. I didn't make meaningful money until my 50s. I didn't become a billionaire until my 70s. Wealth rewards endurance. Most people don't fail because they're unlucky. They fail because they stop before the compounding even begins. If you take nothing else from this, remember, you don't have to be brilliant. You just have to avoid being stupid for a very long time. Learn from others. Only buy what you understand. Be patient. Focus. Minimize fees and taxes. Control your emotions. And whatever you do, don't quit. If this way of thinking speaks to you, subscribe. Share your thoughts below. And tell me, are you ready to build wealth the boring way, the way that actually works?